Hi, my name is Jolene, and I'm the Director of Training and Professional Development for an org that sends people overseas teaching English. And I have MA TESOL from Azusa Pacific University, and I've been able to teach for almost 20 years in a bunch of different contexts. I lived in Asia for 7 years, and I've been doing short-term projects in the Middle East, North Africa region for a little while. So I'm excited to be here with my friend Laura.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura, and I've been teaching overseas in Asia at a university since 2018, and I recently acquired my master's in TESOL and intercultural studies from Wheaton College.
We are here today to do a session on salty lessons, how to deepen truth in any English class. And you might notice that we are using very intentional language in how we're speaking with you, partly because this is a tricky topic for some of the places that we live. And so we wanted to, just for safety and security reasons, but also we wanted to model for you how much you can communicate and convey with, yeah, just choosing your words. Yeah, talking about things a little bit differently. So this whole presentation is available with this QR code. We'll show it again at the end, just in case, so you don't feel stressed about it. But we want to share this information with you. Yeah, whether you are in a kind of country like where we teach, or you are working in North America, working inside a fellowship, teaching ESL, ESL, EFL, there are ways to bless your students by teaching salty lessons. So we need to meet the needs of our students by teaching them English. And we want to teach them English that's useful for them and helpful for them. But we also want them to think deeper and have interaction with some ideas that will lead them to ask questions and learn more about the sun.
So we're going to cover the why, so that being the benefits of being less overt in how we speak. And we're going to cover the how, talking about atmosphere, putting deep truth into existing curriculum, and how to use questions to help students consider truth. And of course, we'll wrap all this up with a Q&A at the end. When we talk about the benefits of being less overt, I think why would anybody want to be less overt, especially if the word calls us to always be ready to explain the hope we have and to not be ashamed of the good news? Why might we consider being less overt about our faith in the classroom? And many countries are fairly restrictive these days. So you being less overt allows us more access into many of these places. And additionally, we're seeing this trend in North American classrooms where these locations are increasingly strict in what teachers can and cannot say.
Mm.
Being less overt honors our learners, and especially in their worldview. We're meeting them where they are, and we're not putting pressure on them with our own worldview. I see this similar to how Paul related to the Athenians in the book of Acts, chapter 17. He met them where they are and started from something they were familiar with.
Mm.
And finally, you can look at learning as a form of love. When we teach the needed practical target language, then we are showing our students love in a way that they need. And by adding critical thinking, we can open more opportunities to talk about our values.
We also have to be really careful sometimes about power distance. As a teacher in different contexts, sometimes we don't realize the amount of power that comes with that. In Canada, we have a pretty low power dynamic, low power distance. We need to recognize that what we say as teacher carries weight in a lot of the cultures we're interacting with. And being the teacher, there are many, many Asian contexts, even Asians that come to North America, or people from the Middle East who come to North America, they have the sense like the student is the blank slate and the teacher is writing the knowledge on them. And so things we say and things we do, sometimes the students feel like they have to parrot it or they have to memorize it the way we say it. And we don't realize the power dynamic that's at play there. When we are less overt, it helps us to not accidentally impose our belief by asking questions and having students come to conclusions. Yeah, they have a little more autonomy and a little bit more input in that. So we aren't inadvertently exercising power we didn't realize we had.
Now, what's really interesting to me is that in my experience, I don't need to use direct verses and quotes and other like-minded jargon to express truth. I
Mm.
can do this by presenting things such as here are some well known sayings, and this could be a proverb, a parable, an idiom, or a local phrase. And I can present this culturally and say, what do you think about this? And I think you more deeply believe something when you have the chance to consider and look at it from multiple angles rather than giving it to direct them directly. Additionally, I use language that is applicable and accessible for students in everyday life. Sometimes our jargon can come from a shared base of knowledge that students don't have. So making
Mhm.
it accessible for them to use in everyday life is helpful. And then even if I never get to using a direct verse or a direct quote, I believe that starting with questions allows students to question further about those things that we all want to know. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And what is the purpose to all of this? These things
Mhm.
are universal for everyone.
Mhm. Yeah. So one way to start doing this, how do we add salt to our lessons? What creates a salty atmosphere? Um, the atmosphere itself of our classroom. Before we even begin teaching, creating classroom conditions that embody our convictions. I think we sometimes underestimate what a contrast it can be, how much our students can feel the difference in their room when it's a place of peace, when there's a place where are free to express joy or free to express frustration, a place where we don't laugh if people make a mistake, and where when people speak, we listen to each other. Some of those things seem very basic to us as conditions for classroom learning, and yet they can really be yeah, very different than what students have experienced in other classes. And so making sure that our classrooms embody spaces that have our convictions, that we've invited the sun to be there with us, that we have yeah, just rules and expectations that align with our values. It can help create experiences for students that will cause them to ask questions about, why is this so different?
And adding to that atmosphere, I really think that the role of lifting is quite important.
Mm.
And when I say lifting, I'm referring to interceding for your students, standing in the gap, holding them up, however you like to express it. But I've been thinking recently that my lifting should be more than reactive, it should be preemptive. Because if I really think that my father is all knowing, he has his hands in all things, and that he's all powerful in each and every situation, then I think I should get to my lifting beforehand, not just as a reaction. And this will have great impact because it is my value that he is in all things and he is working things together for good. So
Yeah.
as we move into infusing deep truth into existing curriculum and how might that happen, I connect to if we speak the truth but have not love, we are nothing but a clanging cymbal or a ringing gong. And similarly, when we love our learners by meeting their felt needs through things like teaching functions, vocabulary, and grammar, we can open the door to further opportunities of infusing our lessons with truth using deeper level questions.
So just as a very basic example, we want to just show what practically this looks like. So if you have a textbook and it has a unit on clothing, I think that's a pretty common topic. Talking about clothes, you're going to teach them vocabulary, common phrases, adjectives to describe clothes. Maybe there's a role play about buying clothes. These are all things we teach that. We do that in the classroom. We could also add a little salt by having some kind of warm up activity, like put phrases on the board such as beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or one man's trash is another man's treasure, or different things about beauty and about or clothing or about fashion, different things, and have students rate how much they agree or disagree. I mean, you could do it a kinesthetic activity where you put agree on one side of the room and they stand up and move, disagree on the other. So we do activities that have them think about beauty in connection to clothing. We can also ask follow questions. What makes this item of shoes? What makes this belt beautiful? How do you know if something's beautiful? How do you describe all these kinds of questions? So thinking about beauty. There's also often opportunity for you to share what you think about these topics. So what makes someone beautiful? You can talk about some of your values. You can use a quote from a book of truth about beauty or something like that too. So we can share our own opinions as one of after the students have given some of their opinions. Another way to make this salty, a lesson on clothing. I could give the students an article or blog about fast fashion and ask them questions about sustainability, connect it to a more global thing, a more broader thing, make it personal and make it global. And so we can talk about, yeah, environmental impacts and how do we feel about that? And what is our responsibility to take care of the earth and some of those things in connection with clothing. You could also ask questions about how students choose the clothes they wear. What do your clothes say about who you are? What factors contribute to what clothes you buy? Who do you want your clothes to look like? All these kinds of things. Again, making it personal, having them question and think about, why do I buy this?
Another common topic you might run across in a textbook would be apologizing. So, of course, we would teach phrases related to this. We would talk about degrees of regret and might even discuss situations that require an apology. But how many textbooks cover language for forgiveness? This is an opposite side that we see reflected in the character of the father that we don't necessarily see in the textbook. And I think you can also use resources like the story of the merciful servant or the story of the lost son. This is something I've actually used myself because of how we see forgiveness reflected. And I would start by giving the students half the story and read and then ask students what they think should happen. Come back to the story and then ask the students what they think about the ending. You can discuss what did they learn from the story and how do they feel about each of the characters. All of these are developing their thoughts about the story, helping their language, and bringing in this idea of forgiveness. Additionally, we can connect to students' experiences of apologizing, being apologized to, forgiving, being forgiven. All of these are common experiences, but we have the opportunity to ask questions that delve deeper into their experience, such as times when somebody has hurt them and how they felt. How do they know they've done something wrong? What is the line for that? And how can you be fully forgiven? How do you forgive others when they hurt you? All of these things come together. Here we've compiled a list of deep truths, and you can pick through it yourself. There's many. This is just a short list, but these are things that Jolene and I found to be reflected in the character of the father and in the truth, and to be underneath many of the topics that we commonly teach as teachers.
The third and final way that we can make our lessons really salty, and we've shown that in the examples too, is there's lots of questions. Asking questions to help your students consider truth. We don't have to just always give them the answers. When we do these deeper thoughts, like I said before, they can come back after class. It allows for more follow-up, more relationship, more dialogue. Part of it is modeling after the son. He spoke in parables. He asked a lot of questions. If you go back and kind of read through, you can see those more and more, and it's a good model for us to follow. There's also just the Socratic method of teaching has been around for centuries. Asking questions, having students connect with content and come up with a deeper, understanding of the world in general. Just good methodology. So we want to encourage you, if you're feeling like your lesson isn't very salty, just ask a couple really good questions to bring it home. So yeah, we want to thank you for your time and for being with us today. Here again is the QR code for this whole presentation. We do have some discussion questions that we're looking forward to now talking about live all together. So these are the ones that we've posed, and we look forward to getting into it with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.